All right, welcome everyone to the latest REM Mastermind. So this month we're talking listing presentations. Before we dive into all that, you can see I'm not in my office that I'm normally in. I'm on the road, so I'm in at a conference, and I'm in a Hilton. I have worked with them to get premium, like this extra Wi-Fi that the staff use. So they've actually shout out to Hilton. They've been really helpful to make this work, and it should work. If I cut out, we have backup plans, but it should be fine. But let us know in the chat where everyone's kind of coming in from. And how we're going to do this is if you have a question that you want to ask panelists, ask in the Q&A, not in the chat. The chat is hard to kind of keep up with it. So I would appreciate if you have a specific question, you can put in there. If it's just commentary, general things like that, please use the chat with everyone, let people know where you're from. Like we have people all over here, which is great. We had almost 1,200 people registered today. So again, it's going to be hard to keep up with the chat, but we'll do our best. We do have a plan, but as always, we are very happy to do this. And then, as always, thank you to Remax for being our official sponsor, and they're keeping this free for everyone. So they have sponsored this series for the rest of the year. And we will be doing this every month with different topics. And if see a couple notes here that people say there's some echo, usually that's because you're signed in twice. That's what we're seeing most of the time when that happens. So it's probably on your end from doing this enough times now. So I'm actually really excited for this one. It's probably going to be our biggest one yet, or it is just by the initial numbers we're seeing. And we got some really great people here. So I'm going to start just in the order that's on my screen. So we have Brandon Wasser. So Brandon, I mean, we go back 8-ish years now. So we've known each other quite a while in the industry. Maybe give a couple, like 30 seconds where you're from, what you do.
Yeah, for sure. So we're out of Richmond Hill. We cover a lot of Toronto and the GTA, run a team. We're about 10, 11 people, and everything from resale to commercial to pre-con to leasing. So we pretty much cover it all.
And then next up on my screen, we have Tom Storey. So Tom and I also go back quite a while. I rent his cottage in the summers. um, but and like Tom actually also like one thing I really like with your list person, you put it on YouTube. So we had talked about that after one, and then you filmed it and you threw it up there. I think the last time I checked, you had a few thousand views on it, and maybe a few. We'll talk about at some point if you got any good appointments booked from it. Do a live update on how that's working. But thanks for joining us. So you run a team out of Toronto.
Yeah, so 13 years in real estate, run a team out of seven people out of Toronto. Big in the condo space, but do lots of homes as well. Yeah, very excited to be here.
Very good. And then finally, we have Tamara Stone from the Remax Kelowna Stone Sisters. And I especially wanted Tamara to come on this one because I was recently at an event where I was the judge of a pitch battle. And basically, what it was is they put up a house on the screen and said, pretend this is your client, the judges, pitch on why you should be hired to sell this house. And probably had like 15 agents come up on stage with no notice of what was going to happen to pitch, and Tamara won. So she was the big winner at the end of it. Was invited to Vegas, I believe, after that to kind of go for the global championship. So I'm really excited to have you as well.
Thank you.
It'd be good.
So
Yeah.
that's good. Nope. Thank you. That was fun. That was the most nerve-wracking thing I think I've ever done in my entire life. Oh my gosh, I was nervous.
Yeah, only 800 people judging you as you're going on stage. That's fine. With
Nothing.
no prep time. It was good. So our goal here today is to kind of walk through from like the very beginning of the listing presentation right to the end. Like we want to get really tactical with this in terms of like what you guys are doing very specifically in it. So again, if you're in the audience and you want to like get clarification, again, use the Q&A. We're going to kind of try to dive as deep as we can into each of the pieces. And it's always important to remember as well that, like, for example, Tamara's in BC, the two are here in Toronto. Like, there could be regulatory changes from one to the other. Like, in past ones, we've talked about, like, oh, that doesn't work with RICO. Well, they don't have RICO there. They have different. So, like, you will might if you hear something, you might have to adapt it slightly based on the regulations in your area. So just keep that in mind as we're doing that. So things change across the country, obviously. So let's jump right in. Before we get to the actual, like, you're in the room doing the listing presentation, one of the things I'm always curious about is, like, what do you do, like, once you've booked the appointment leading up to it? Like, are there specific, like, pre-listing kits you're doing, or what's that process look like? And I'll start with Brandon.
Yeah, so we've tried everything from, like, yes, pre-listing, currying it out. Tom, I know you've always talked about doing that. I don't know if you still do, but um just dropping it off. You know, we've gone a lot of different routes, but what I find works best for me is I really try to use the time frame from booking the appointment all the way to the appointment time to build rapport. And I will usually, by the time I'm in the house, I've already spoke to these clients anywhere between 3 to 5 times. I want an established relationship before I even walk through the door. I just find it opens up conversation, opens up dialogue, opens up trust a lot quicker than if I'm walking in there and that's like really the first time I'm speaking to them.
So from, like, when you're doing it that way, like, how are you setting up those conversations between? Is it just because, like, let's say if I get a call, I'm thinking I'm selling home, I call you guys
Yeah.
right now. Where's those 3 to 5 conversations happening between now and, like, if we're meeting on Monday?
So I'll purposely omit questions that I know I can reach back out on that aren't going to make me sound like I just forgot to ask. So it could be anything from, you know, strategically saying, hey, I'm going to give you a call back in the next few days just to gather some more info on your home so I can better prepare myself um, for our appointment on whatever date. So that would be one example. And then I'll give them a call back that date, usually a day or two after, depending how big the stretch of time is between. And I'll just speak to them a little bit about the house. And I'll keep it short and brief about real estate. I'll try to add in a little bit of conversation more on a general level. Again, I don't want to be salesy. That's not my approach. I just want to be warm, friendly. Um, that's a really easy way to do it. I'll always do the confirmation the day of. And I'll usually find one or two, it's obviously situational depending on what their situation is. Could be estate sale, could be divorce, could just be regular upsize, downsize. So I will find ways to kind of reach out. It could even just be a quick text. It's not always like a phone call and a conversation, but I do want those touch points beforehand.
And how about you, Tamara? Like, do you guys have a pre-list you send out, or what
We
does that look
do.
like?
Yeah, we do. And it's so interesting listening to Brendan because I rarely speak to anybody before I show up at the door. So our phones are answered. One of our listing coordinators answers the phone, and she does a good job of, sort of vetting, finding out location and a little bit of information. And then because we're a group, I won't say team in BC, we're a brokerage. We can't use the word team, the way we're set up. So one of our agents will then reach out and find out a little bit more. Do some of what you're doing, Brendan, with, asking questions and updates they've done, what have you. We call it our ebook, and it's a 15-page flip book that just goes over, our marketing, what we do that sets us apart, some testimonials, some facts or, charts on our performance based on the industry average. And we warn people that that's coming because before we used to tell people it was coming, they wouldn't open it because I think they thought, it comes by email and they're like, oh, it's going to be spam or junk. And through our CRM, we can see how many times people look at that email and open it. So, we used to drop off a package. Before that, we used to show up with our printed hardcover book, and then we'd spend half an hour of what for us ideally is a 1 hour appointment talking about us. And now we don't really talk about us at all. We try and talk about them. So that's what we do.
Brilliant. And so and you found that's a good switch going from, like, the hardcover printed
Way
one to
better.
the digital version. Yeah.
Yeah. When we were dropping them off, we had a courier, we had a fancy box made, and we drop it off. Lots of people didn't even open it. Like
Yeah.
sometimes we'd go show up at the door. It was dropped off yesterday. We were there tomorrow, and it was still sitting at the front door. So
Not
I'm like,
ideal.
hey, that's not good. We're not going to get it back. We toyed with trying those video ones. Some of
Yep.
the viewers might have the video book, and honestly, the ebook, the flip book, seems to be great. And sometimes people have it up and they want to talk about it. Like we always bring the actual book with us,
Yeah.
but it seems to be effective.
Yeah. And someone did ask a question and they sent it to me privately here. So just try to put it
Yeah.
either in the Q&A or to everyone. They just wanted to know what program you're using or software for the ebook.
Oh, Shannon is the expert. My sister and our marketing team
Yeah.
are the
All
experts
good.
with that. But yeah, I
Yeah.
think just Flipbook, like it's super basic,
Yeah.
just condensed it all into there and made it really user friendly.
Perfect. And how about you, Tom? What do you do before the appointment?
Yeah, so it sounds like we're all kind of the same here. I used to send the actual physical box that said like VIP, and
Yeah.
but I do so many condos, like half the time we get stuck at front desk or they wouldn't open it, and COVID kind of changed that, and we never went back to it. So I'd say there's really just to add maybe two things. Um, I really try to never book an appointment more than 1 week out. Like I
Mhm.
try to keep it as close to when I'm talking to them as possible. More time, higher cancellation, more time to talk to other agents in between. And then what we've been doing, which has been an interesting approach, is once we book the appointment, my assistant will actually reach out. If you're watching this and you don't have an assistant, it doesn't mean you can't make another email address with, that someone reaches out on behalf of you. But basically, she reaches out, hey, I just want to, introduce myself. I know Tom's meeting with you on Thursday. If you have about 10 minutes before the meeting, would you be open to, and you have to use that wording, would you be open to filling out our seller questionnaire? So Tom can have all the information before he meets with you. And all it is a link. And we built it in type form and it asked them all the questions about updates they've done, like everything. And then it will ask them what's their favorite restaurant, what are things that they like. So I'm like learning personal things. And what I found is if they're willing to fill that out before I meet with them in person, my conversion rate's almost a guarantee. They're like telling me they're already going to work with us. That's worked very, very well. And then as soon as it goes firm or we get an offer, we send them a gift card to their favorite restaurant. And then the closing gift would be based on what they tell us they like. So I've just found like sending that seller survey out before the appointment, less than half the people actually fill it out. But when they fill it out, when I'm walking in, I'm like, they've already kind of told me they're ready to go. And I have all the information now.
So do you then specifically change your approach for the people who didn't fill it out when you get there?
I wouldn't say I changed my approach. I'm just
Yeah.
like, I know I got to work a little harder on that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's almost like they're pre-qualifying themselves. So they're like, yeah,
Yeah.
we're interested enough to spend time doing this for you before you showed up. There's a good chance I'm going to get that listing.
So you're finding that form is giving you a better idea of their motivational level.
Yeah, if they're willing to fill it out, they're serious. They're ready to go.
We do have a question here from Debbie asking if you're willing to share the questions on the questionnaire. Um, yeah.
Yes,
I- if
it's
you all flip it to me, I'll include what the questions are in the follow-up email. So you can send me a copy and I'll just put
I
it.
made an example version just for
Oh, perfect.
realtors, so
Yeah.
it doesn't go to my assistant and confuse her. Yeah.
Perfect. So yeah, send me that link and I'll include it in the follow-up email. So things like that, people, if there's little follow-ups like that, we'll try and include that in the follow-up email that goes out to everyone. Um, don't ask for a copy of their listing presentation. Everything else is usually fair game, not always that. And then yeah, so another question is just like what sort of platform? It's called Typeform. We use it too. It's a great platform, easy to use. So we're good there. And then so you've sent this out. Now you know the appointment is. What are you bringing with you to the appointment?
Do you want me to start?
Sure.
I'm old school. I bring two physical booklets and a pen. I don't bring an iPad. I don't bring a computer. Like I bring a physical booklet, and I will say like when you print out your listing booklets, there's different types of binding you can get, and this is something I've always been really like weird about. I'm spending $20 per listing booklet because it's perfect binding.
Yeah.
This is something you're leaving with them. This is your brand. Like don't show up with a flimsy so yeah, we spend a lot on the printing for our listing booklets, and I show up with the two listing booklets, obviously all the comps, all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. But I'm old school. I don't bring any technology.
Should send you who just printed the REM magazine because we did that and we got the cost down to $8 per and it's 68 pages.
For perfect binding.
Yeah. Like
Yeah,
it's
nice.
he's good. He's a
Wow.
little eccentric, but he's good. And you have to order minimum 50 at a time. But it's good. It
I
was
may
like
need that
$8 a
contact
Saturday.
from you, Andrew.
Yeah. It'll
Yeah,
be
me
good.
too.
Yeah. So I gotta start sending him a bunch of business. But no, he does a very good job. I can flip that. So here's a question here. Actually, before we get into the question, so Brandon and Tamara, like, what are you bringing with you to the appointments as well, or is it similar to what Tom's doing?
Tamara, you want to go ahead?
Sure, thank you. We do a booklet as well. So it's, an introduction to who's behind the scenes. We have a checklist that we get people to fill out that says your five favorite things about the home that we use in marketing, a little blurb of how to prepare your home for sale. We do have a stager that goes once they list with us, but and no computers, no, I mean, my book, if I were to flip through and show you guys this, but my book is like an old school notebook and I write a million chicken scratch notes while I'm walking through the house with them. So
Have you, Brandon?
I have my laptop and I have our listing package, but I don't know when the last time I actually opened that listing package in front of a client. Like I also find like the listing packages, we have stuff for the client, it's client forward, but it's also, I think we're probably a bit guilty, like most agents, there's also a lot about us. And over the years, you realize pretty quickly they don't care about us. So what can we
yeah.
do for them? So I think Tamara and Tom, you're probably no different. Like we spend the majority of, if not all of that time, just talking about what they want.
Hmm.
So I never open that booklet anymore.
And then again, for anything you guys are talking about, if you guys want us to send it out in the follow-up email to everyone, just send it to me after and I'll include it because I see there's people asking for things like
Yeah.
this exact language Tom's assistant's using. We'll include that in the follow-up email. Obviously, you'll get the full recording and everything. Um, and then Laura's asking Tom, perfect bound for comparables. So is that what you or is it just like your
No,
specific, here's
no,
what a high risk?
just the listing booklet.
Yeah,
The
perfect. And
comparables are
then
still regular paper. Yeah.
yeah. There's one here from Cynthia, which we'll go to. Are any of you sending your commission options before the appointment? Start with Tamara. Or just everyone's no across the board. Has anyone tried that before?
Not
No.
No.
before, but
Yeah.
we have
So
had like the page,
yeah.
the options.
So we did ask this last time as well, and I'll ask it for this one. If you get that phone call from someone who's like their first question is just, "What do you charge?" How are you answering that? We'll start with Tom.
Yeah, so I do everything possible to not answer that on the phone.
Deflect, deflect, deflect.
Yeah, no, but
Yeah.
my actual answer is we actually have three commission packages depending on what you're looking for. And I find it's best to sit down and see your property and get a sense of what would make the most amount of sense for you. But so I don't really push it. I just say like we have lots of options, but it really
Mhm.
depends on what you need. And I'd love to meet with you first and go through that. And in my listing presentation, commission's the last thing I talk about. I want to
Mhm.
show as much value before I get to that.
We're the exact same.
Yeah, so are we. Do you guys find that sometimes you get to the end of your presentation and they're willing to wrap up and even move forward and you still haven't even spoke about commission or price? Like
Yeah.
we've had a few of those where we've left and they're like, send us paperwork and we haven't discussed anything.
Yeah.
That
Means
works
you've done
out.
your job well, I think. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I
Removed
think
all the doubt from them.
yeah, I think with commission, I don't know about other markets, but I know like we have a couple one percenters in our market that are very
Mhm.
prevalent,
Mhm.
advertising it everywhere. So a lot of time when we're getting new cold business phone in, we're having direct questions about 1%. So our answers are very similar to Tom's. And if they want to get into it further, then we tell them we'll stay competitive. And we ask them if they're looking for something specific. And we never want to turn down the appointment. So we can always discuss that in-house.
Mhm.
And so now you're at the house. What's that like first? Like they knocking on the door, they're opening it. Like what's that first piece as soon as you walk in that's happening there? Start with Tamara.
Yeah, I'll go. I think the first thing that happens is we walk in and we've trained our agents really hard with this and Shan and I are constantly working to improve this as well. We're trying to build rapport. And we're trying to find, there's that old saying that people do business with people they like. So prior to the listing appointment, we are stalking them, hunting them on social media and LinkedIn, on finding out anything we can. And then really as we're walking through the home, and like I said, I like to take notes. I always get nervous when I go to a restaurant and the server can memorize 10 people's orders, and she's just like, no, I've got it all. It's in my head. And, I've tried that. I can't remember anything about somebody's house, but my sheets, if you went through, I did 2 listing evaluations yesterday, and I'm writing down the name of their dog, that she did an Ironman 3 years ago. Like I'm writing down stuff about who they are. So then during the presentation, when we're sitting chatting, I can circle back to, oh, our kids went to that school as well. Or, yeah, I'm a runner too. I can't imagine a half Ironman, or, whatever it is. But my first thing is really trying to connect with them and get them to like me.
How about you, Tom? Like when you first walk in, what does that look like?
Yeah, usually before I even first walk in, there's like a little mental preparation walking up to the door, just reminding myself that like I'm good at this and that I am going to be a good option for them. No matter how many times you've done it, there's still like a little bit. It's like you don't know how this is going to go, right? So mostly it's like getting myself in the right mental state. But my approach of when I first meet them, I want to tour right away. Like I want to see the house
Mhm.
before I sit. And then I say, hey, would you mind if we go through a tour and tell me what you've done and like ask questions and be curious. And then I'll say, after that, can we sit down and kind of go through everything together? So that's usually the way in which we go about it.
How about you, Brandon?
Yeah, we always start with the tour, and I find the tour is the best time to really pile on that extra rapport building because you can talk about the house, you can throw them compliments, you can have them, like I always tell them, ask questions while we're walking through. If you have questions about, people are thinking of renovating or painting or, something needs work, staging can come up during those times. So usually I find clients have questions about the process. So it's a great time to get conversations started, but also we can just talk about everything else. And, you know, everyone's guard is let down a little bit, hopefully, by the time we actually sit down.
And how much are you focusing on like the prep for the home versus just like learning about it when using the conversation, or is it you're just kind of looking around and building rapport and you're not talking as much about the house?
I will try not to talk about the house a ton. Like I'll ask specific questions. I don't want them to think I'm ignoring the home, but I'm asking specific questions more in like the big ticket stuff. It's all usually the time I'll also write down all the main ticket, like the larger ticket items, roof, windows, reno, like years of renos, AC, furnace, stuff like that, rental options. Because then I find I have everything by the time I sit down as well. And we've really gotten into some important things that we could spend the rest of the sit down time because I don't want to keep people seated for too long. So we could spend that time on the important stuff.
Yeah. Just a note for people in chat and Q&A, we can't really chat specific commission numbers. So we're not going to be like, well, I get to charge
Right.
this of this versus that. Like we can't really have those very specific discussions happen here. So we're going to kind of go over that a little bit. So if you want like specific objections, you want to know things around that, we can definitely do that. But we probably shouldn't chat about specific numbers while we're doing this. But here's a question that did just come in from Jack related to the conversations. So what do you do with clients who are a little more like restricted with conversation and aren't like biting on the small talk? Like, do you have a specific
Mhm.
approach to get them to open up?
I think just asking, you want to control dialogue, you want to control
Mhm.
conversation, um, but you don't want to do it in an obvious way. So I'm just constantly asking questions about them and their home and their needs and their wants. And I find like there are people that will spill everything in the first minute. There are people that like you really gotta pry. But I think if you're genuine and at the end of the day, like as you go through your walk, like you're already in their home. So as you're walking through, like if you just keep rapid firing questions and they could see that you care, like eventually you hit a question where like they want to talk about it. I've never really had an appointment where I'm walking through and like it is just people don't want to talk, they're silent. At the end of the day, worst case, you default to the house and the process and the sale.
For us, I do find that there's value in noticing things. We have a lot of new construction in Kelowna, and I mean our whole city, the oldest houses are 80 maybe. And I find it shows that I know what I'm talking about when I walk through and will point out drywall returns or something that's perhaps not visible to the average person or they might not point out. We're shopped a lot. I think on average, and we get a lot of our listings, 86% year to date, of the CMAs that we've gone on. And some of the ones we didn't get were because we didn't give them the price they wanted. But we're often shopped. So I go in, and tell our agents, assume that everybody is talking to three other realtors for sure. So if you could point out, like I'm a huge believer in asking them questions and building that rapport and building that trust. But I think if you could show that ask about the hardwood floors and maybe go over and pull up the register, because a lot of people don't know if their floors are hardwood or engineered or three-quarter oak. And if you can go and kind of look and show that you maybe know a bit about construction, it's something that I'm fairly certain the other agents they've had through haven't done, and kind of separates you a bit from some of the average.
That'd be Tom. How do you handle that?
I usually take a really casual approach. Like when I sit down with them, if they're not a super talkative person, I'll start by just saying like, why am I here? And just kind of smile and stop talking. Because I actually think the one thing that realtors are the worst at is they talk way too much. So ask a question and then shut up. And the more that you don't talk, they will share more. So that's what I found. And also, like, sometimes you do a listing presentation, it gets to the very end, and then they finally are telling you things that would be helpful. And you're like, why didn't you just tell me this? Because their guard's up, right? So if I get that sense right away, the way I try to get their shoulders from here to here is by letting them know, just so you know, today, I'm coming to give you all the information I would want to know if I were you. I'm not going to ask you to sign something today unless you're absolutely ready to go. And you can almost just watch the stress leave their body, and then they open up so much. So I'm not saying don't bring paperwork to appointments. I'm just saying, like, don't force it, because not forcing it has got me way more listings than trying to get it done that day, like old school sales. That's never worked for me.
I love that.
Yeah.
There's a quick follow-up here, and I'm going to ask Tamara this one just because it's kind of related to what you say. Do you always ask if they're also meeting other realtors when you're coming in?
Always. Oh, and that's actually one of our questions we ask before we go in. And
Okay.
people have said, do you want to be first? Do you want to be last? We go in where we go in. We go in with the understanding or with the assumption that they're talking to other people, and we'll ask on the phone ahead of time, and then when we get there, because I haven't spoken to them yet, so when we're there and I say, now, are you getting other opinions? Have you talked to other agents? And sometimes, it's funny because we had one last week, and they're like, no. No, like you guys have just like you sell everything up here. So no, we didn't. Should we? And I'm like, no, absolutely not. But most
I
are
have these
pretty
two
honest
other
about it.
agents I work with.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was talking to someone recently who said, I forget who it was. They said that that's actually what they do is they send two other agents from their team. They're like, you can pick any of the three. I was like, there's probably some sort of frame in there. Like you can kind of pick the one that you
Yeah.
look like, that you like the most.
Yeah.
And there's a question here for Tom, which is, does your approach of yours resonate more with a particular age group?
I haven't found that. I just feel like most people don't want to feel like they're being sold.
Mhm.
Now, if they're older and they want to sign it in person, obviously, like I'll bring what I need. It's bring it. Just don't think don't think if you leave that appointment without the signature that you're not going to get it. Like that's just not the reality, I don't think, in today's market.
Yeah. And then just a note, people, if you're hearing an echo, we usually find it's on your side. You probably signed in twice. That's normally what's causing that. Um, and then, so here's another question. Do you talk about other agents giving a significantly higher price in order to get the listing? Like, do you call that out directly when you're talking with them? Tamara? No?
Yeah. We really do because we're sitting at I don't know, 1,400 agents in a town the size of 160,000 people. So we have a lot. There are a lot of agents here selling one or two houses a year at most. I think the board average last year was 3.6 homes per agent. So we really do talk, one of the things I like to close with is what, if I find out that they are talking to other people, is what are you going to base your decision on who to list with upon? Is it the agent? And if they kind of get quiet, I go, is it the person you like the most? Is it the person who is going to tell you the highest price? Or is it the person who's going to communicate well and work hard for you and you think will do the best job? And then you use the Sullivan's nod that I learned when I worked at the keg waitressing. Did you save room for Billy Miner pie? They nod. But
It works.
I do like to address the fact that, the vast majority of properties in our market anyway are not selling. 7 to 8% on any given month are selling, leaving 92% not selling. And the data that we have as well shows, and you say, this house did sell after being on the market for 4 years, and they ended up dropping $600,000. So we do try and talk about the fact we will be very honest. We're not going to tell them any price just so they pick us. We tell them a price we believe will be successful at.
And this actually ties right nicely into a question that came in as well, which is, are you all three of you, and we'll start with you, Tamara, because you're on it right now. Are you all doing a CMA and the listing presentation at the same time, or do you treat that as two appointments?
We're two-step.
Yeah.
So, and it's one of our agents who's been selling longer than me even, can't stand, I don't think he likes computers. Dean, he's not on it. He'd fully admit it. He doesn't want to, do all of this stuff and follow. We have templates for doing our actual report of what we think the house is worth. He goes in with all his comps and wants to get that listing signed. All the rest of us go in, gather details about the house, take a good look at it, build rapport with them, and then we leave and put together our research. We give people the option. We say, we could bring it back and sit down with you again. We could, schedule a Zoom. We'll have it on email and we'll go through it together and send you that. And that's what the vast majority of people want is so that two-step. Our goal is to have it to them certainly within 48 hours, but the next day, and gives a little time for them to sort of reflect on how the meeting went.
How about you, Tom? Are you one step, two step?
Yeah, I try to be two-step. I mean, sometimes for the condos, I can price them so fast because they're priced per square foot that I don't need two-step. But for most cases, I'm meeting with them and then saying, okay, now that I met with you, gone through the property, let me go do some homework, and I'm going to come back to you with a plan on here's what I recommend. And then even not to get too ahead of it, but for pricing, I'm like, I'm going to give you my MLS price and I'm going to give you our target sale price. Just because in this market, buyers think money off asking price equals deal, which isn't always the case, but let's be strategic and talk about why that's important.
Yeah.
And how about you, Brian? Are you one step, two step?
I'm pretty one step. So I'll rarely choose to go back twice unless it's a very unique property. I really try to keep it at one. I just find a lot of our clients who are in the markets we're working, like they're having us over, they want that information right away. So we'll keep it one.
And then when you're doing it, it's like we're going to go back to the actual process. We get sidetracked sometimes with questions. You're walking through the house. Now it's time to actually like have that next step of the conversation of you've done the tour. Are you going to the kitchen table? Do you have a specific place you always look at for this? Like what's your goal there for that sit down part of it? We'll start with Brandon.
I ask them. Actually, it's the first thing I do when I walk in the house because I have my bag and I have the something for the listing package, jacket and everything in the winter. I'll ask them where they'd like to sit. I want them most comfortable in their own home because if they're comfortable, that appointment's going to go a lot better. So I'll let them lead that way. They'll show me where to put my stuff down and then we'll start the tour.
How about you, Tom?
Yeah, usually it's just kitchen table. That's I try to the biggest surface. Sometimes it's a small condo and like I'm like sitting like this on the end of their couch and trying. I've gotten really good. Like you get really good at presenting when your book is flipped upside down and you're showing them.
Yeah. How about you, Tamara?
Kitchen table.
Yeah.
So because I want to make sure that I can make eye contact, or that, Jack and I, or Christy and I could sit. Like I'm pretty deliberate about where we want to sit, so that so we can look at the two of them, because we've heard, and we've all heard this, that, you've got husband and wife at a meeting, and the realtor comes in and only makes eye contact or talks to the husband or the wife, and they don't get the business. And if you go in the living room and she sits here and he's over there, it's hard to have that. So I like the table, and our agent who's got all the stats sits to my right. I'm on the left, and we like the two of them across from us.
And so when you first said that, like, is there a specific line you use on the transition, or is it just why don't we go sit down now? And it's kind of as simple as that.
I would always ask,
Yeah,
and just say, can we sit down? Is it good here? So.
yeah, good. And then what's the beginning now? You have them sitting down in front of you. You're at the table. What's that like? The opening of your presentation now.
What do you look? It's like what Tom said. Like, let them
Yeah.
tell you how to
Yeah,
present. I feel like there's a lot of agents. We train our agents like this all the time. Um, we don't need to go sit down and give them a whole presentation on what we do, how we do it, what our credentials are, our accolades, our awards. Like, it's just a simple question. Like, what's your plan? What are you looking for? Those questions will just open up your entire presentation.
Mhm.
I can cater everything I say to their needs rather than just wondering and guessing if I'm speaking to what they're looking for.
makes sense. And so, like, how often, I'm curious, is it a very regimented thing? Like, okay, I have to hit these notes, or is this kind of like, I know the major things I have to talk about while I'm here, but that's going to change with each one?
I don't even know that there are major things. Like, I think it's so client specific because every client's um, important points are very individualized and very situational. So that's why it's so important to ask them, get a full scope of what their picture looks like, because how can you speak to helping them? And I think taking like a more holistic approach where like so many agents I think are concerned about the price, the commission, can we sell it? Like you haven't even got the listing yet. Like how can we really help our clients? And this is normally people are like, if we're talking about a listing appointment, we're talking about selling, but there's a lot more involved in just selling. Like, are they buying? Is this a cash out? Are they investing? Like, what are they doing after sale? And I find that I will touch a lot on that because I find it differentiates us from other agents because most agents don't. Um, B, I can better guide and better help if I'm finding out the whole story rather than just talking about my commission and listing price and the strategies taken to get that listing to market and sell, right? Or is it even the right time to list your house? I will, like, we have clients that we've deferred years just because they would have really shot themselves in the foot otherwise. And I think, we're in it for the long haul. We're not here to run off a few quick ones, right?
And this is just a quick question, and this one's only specific to Brandon and Tom. Do you ever go over the Rico info guide at the first appointment?
It's sent before the appointment, and then we go
Uh,
over it. Yeah.
yeah.
Easy,
Um, I think we're supposed to say yes. Um,
always.
we always give it out. I
No,
saw someone ask if we use humor in our present. Like all, I try to be very lighthearted with everything. So like all more presented as sleeping material. Like tonight, if you're having trouble falling asleep, like give this a read. But the people that want to go over it, like we will ask. The people that want to go over it, we will, and most people don't.
no. I'm curious from like a stats perspective. This is one I found is where a lot of agents have very different approaches if they have one at all, which is like, are there specific stats you're pulling about like your performance that you're the market that you bring every time that does a really good job? Like I know like when I sold, absorption rate always seemed to land well with people and explaining that because they didn't know about it. But Like, sorry, you, Tamara, like, is there, because I saw you in the chat about it a little bit.
I love stats, and I do think that that's a big differentiating factor with showing that you're an expert and educated, and not just there to, be their friend or tell them what they want to hear or what have you. So yeah, in our listing package that we leave with them, we have a whole sheet on our stats, and we do talk about absorption rate because that's something that's not used very widely. Our board puts out days on market, which is a bit misleading. I just finished a 2-year term on our board, and everybody cancels and relists. So it's, the real estate board puts out, oh, average days on market is 50 days. I'm like, no, it's like 150. It's just we all cancel and relist and kind of try and make it look new. So the absorption rate's been a great one. I'm very specific, or we are very specific in, average according to our board, average home that sold last year sold for 96.2%. Average Stone Sister listing sold for 98.1. That nets on your average home of $1 million an extra 12,370. And that 12,370 is in big bold letters. It helps us deal with the objection of commission. So, because if somebody, comes to us and says, well, your commission's higher than somebody else. And I go, okay, with that, I think what you're meaning is you want to make sure you net the most in your jeans. You want to sell quickly and you want to walk away with the most. And they're like, yes. I'm like, the way to do that, in my opinion, is not going with a discount broker who's not going to throw everything they can to get your home sold. And when you look at the proof, the listings we sell, on average, here's how much more you're going to net. So that the stats, I'm very big on that.
How about you, Tom? Like, what are you doing from a statistics perspective?
It's the exact same. We have it in two places. The first part of the presentation, the about us, and then at the very end, right beside the commission section, there is us versus the market, and we update that yearly based on what our brokerage gives us. They have a system that they can pull the stats.
Yeah.
But yeah, our entire presentation is basically answering 5 questions. That's all it is. And that's actually how I start every conversation, is like, what I've found from doing this is that sellers want 5 questions answered. And I'm happy to chat with you today for 3 hours if you want to talk, or 20 minutes, like whatever works best for you. But what you probably want to know is, why would you hire me? What's happening in the market? What am I going to do to sell your house? What's your property worth, and what do I charge?
Mm-hmm.
So those 5 questions, however you get to them, is up to you. But our presentation is literally 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we touch on those points. And like, I am regimented. I present the book every appointment. Like, I get there's a certain amount of agents that can go in and just are charming and social. I need to present.
Mm-hmm.
That's just me, right? Like, everyone does it their own way, and we all get similar results, so it's great. But yeah, I just a little bit about us, which literally I talk for 30 seconds on us.
Yeah.
What's happening in the market? I try to create a value gap by asking one simple question. Like, hey, I'm just curious. Tamara talked about absorption rate. I'll typically say to ourselves, I'm just curious, have you ever heard of the term months of inventory?
Mm-hmm.
And they go, maybe. I'm like, oh, well, when you hear people talking about buyer's market, seller's market, it's a fancy way of understanding that. And I can show you exactly what's happening for your property type. And I actually have a section in my book with 6 areas, and it says active listings, sold, months of inventory. Then it has days on market, list versus sale price, and percentage of property selling every month. And I pull out a pen, and I have the stats, and I do it with them with the calculator on my phone. And I explain to them what the numbers actually mean. I just find that lets me, like, early in the presentation, create a value gap that they might have all the sales data. They might know a lot of what's going on, but they didn't know that, wow, only 8% of homes in my neighborhood are selling.
Yeah.
8%, or for my downtown condo stuff, it's 15 to 20.
Yeah.
Well, oh my, okay. Well, what do we have to do to be in that 15 to 20%? So I try to, like, set that expectation early.
It's so good because then that's a whole different conversation you're having with them, rather than, one of 100 agents going, da, 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 here's what I do. I'm so great.
Yeah.
It's because that's what when I started, that's what we were trained to do, to just go sell yourself. And I like your approach because all of a sudden they're going, holy crap, I need Tom. I need somebody who's going to get rid of all the fluff and be honest with me and help me be one of the 8% or 15%. to actually be successful. That's really good.
And there's a couple questions here from people kind of around the same concept, which is essentially if either stats aren't on your side or you're new enough that those stats, like how would you talk to like maybe a newer agent who doesn't have that history on what you should be doing there?
Stats that aren't like the beautiful thing about numbers is they can all be manipulated. So if your stats aren't on your side because of price, like maybe just find another angle. So I think I saw something about power sales, so maybe lower priced average sales. But what's your sell rate, like your sales to listing rate? And if you're batting 90 to 100% in this market, I mean, that's great. I'd just switch your focus point there rather than focusing on price. So I think there's many ways you can work around the numbers to pitch yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And then here's just a fun one here for we'll start with you, Brent. What do you do when you go to a listing presentation and the family dog is jumping on you? The kids are running around and screaming. How do you get back the attention on the presentation?
I'm a dog lover, so like if door opens and there's a dog, like I'm on the floor with that dog before I even shake hands and introduce myself. And and it's not just, to win the attention of the homeowners. Like I just, that's who I am. So I don't mind, like, and I will spend time with the kids, and I'll spend like I don't mind staying at the house longer and really bonding with the family. I want them so comfortable when I leave. Um, and I'll spend that same time and quality the entire way through. So, if they have screaming kids in the back, like that's where I will sometimes try to shift it into a second appointment. Like if I could tell that I think you have to read the room. If the client's struggling to pay attention, I don't want to go through my whole presentation and then they have not absorbed anything. So if I'm finding like this is a struggle for them, then I'll ask if, I don't mind coming back. They may feel bad. They may feel like confrontational. They've taken the time out of my day. They don't want to ask me to leave, but I know my value is not going to be really th absorbed properly if they're paying attention to screaming kids and rambunctious dogs. So it's, yeah, read the room basically.
It reminds me of when I was interviewing an agent one time. I think they were at a conference. I spoke to them after, and they do a listing contract for the kids. I just have their way of bringing them in where they have them sign it, and it's like their agreement is keep your room clean and you get this toy at the end of it. But they had like an actual one they had them come out and sign. I thought that was clever. It was pretty good. Then we have a few more. Oh, we have lots of questions. I'm just trying to sort through the right ones here. Here is some coming up. One, I have like 8 different things popping up in front of me right now. How often would you say, as a rough estimate, we'll start with Tom, like, are you getting contracts, like, you come back with the CMA, are you getting the signature before that, like on that first appointment, or is it always on the second one you're getting the actual signature?
It's almost always on the second one, but usually I'm not going back in person. It's a Zoom call
Yeah.
to look over the numbers and then go through DocuSign with them.
Yeah. And do you have the sign right there, like while they're on Zoom with you, or you send it and then they sign it after?
It depends on what their preference is, but sometimes people want you to really walk them through it. So I'll just do it on the Zoom.
No. How about you, Tamara? Like, how do you handle that like approach?
Exact same. Yeah, I've had people say last year, we had people say, this is great. You're the third realtor we've talked to. We like what you guys are saying. Your price is bang on because we'd had enough information to discuss price with them. And they said, let's go ahead, let's sign it right now. And I didn't have anything with me. So I was like, and our assistant's the one who does paperwork. So I'll get back to you on that. Like I wasn't prepared to have it with me. So
yeah. And
step
then
two.
how often, because I'm curious, I've had conversations with a lot of agents on how much they update their presentation. How often, outside of just like making sure the stats are current, do you review and update your listing presentation? Tamara.
Yeah, I'll go.
Yeah.
We do a lot. And I'm sure all the markets, I mean, Justin was saying his market's crazy busy and things are selling in multiple offers. I'm like, oh, I remember those days. So here it's shifting constantly, and every little bit of news and everything that's happening in the province and in our municipality with short-term rentals back or what have you. So we are looking at it. I'm fortunate because I work with my sister. She is an absolute marketing genius. And so Shannon's constantly looking at, okay, what could we be doing that's different? What could we do to help set us apart? If we add something, we get rid of something. So it's our presentation updates, honestly, probably every 2 months. Like our goal is once a quarter we revisit, but it's happening faster and faster now.
So curious with all those updates, are there things you look at that you change where like that was a mistake?
Oh,
Let's go
yeah.
back and do it this way. Like what is there things that stand out as like we tried this, it definitely did not work.
Oh, yeah. For us, we tried Matterport. We tried the
Yeah.
whatever those are called, the Matterport.
Dollhouse. Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't like that. We've tried, we really, went down a rabbit hole with some of the AI, and we're like, this is going to be great, and all the staging it can do, and all our templates, and it'll make our lives easier. And we lost that authenticity, I guess. People could tell it wasn't us. So definitely we've had lots of, trial and error. We tried lights on our signs, like the spotlights that would shine on our signs at night. And kids just thought those were great and they stole them and put them at their own houses. And like we've had a million things and I'm like, this is going to be the key. And I'm like, nope, that was a fail. So
I'm curious, like for the sign, do you do anything differently, or is it a very traditional sign?
it's traditional. I mean, Remax really regulates us with what we're allowed. We're pushing the envelope. Our logo is three stacked rocks, and locally here, that's well known. So we're fortunate because our brokerage has Stone Sisters in it, and the rocks are good. Remax doesn't like the rocks on it; they want them smaller, and it's a pretty traditional sign.
Yeah. And how about you, Tom?
For my sign, it's
Yeah, because like I bet a lot of yours with the condos, you don't even have a sign.
no, I don't
Or
get a sign
Yeah.
half the
yeah,
time, which is okay. But no, I change my presentation all the time, and my assistant hates it because I'm always like,
yeah.
"Hey, I know he just printed 25 new ones," but usually it happens if I lose two
Mhm.
in a row. I'm like, okay, what do I need to change? And I realized like there was one last year. I had four in a row I didn't get, and I'm like, am I just bad now? Like,
You
what
lost
happened? Like, did I just? And then I realized what I was doing is I was going in and saying like, there's a lot of things that people are going to tell you, but there's two things, and the market wasn't good, right? And it was like, here's what's going to make a difference, this and this. And I was being way too direct and to the point and giving them
Mhm.
the information I thought was actually correct. But I realized, and like, I don't know any other way to say this, like, people need to be massaged. Like, you gotta walk them through as much as the 18-point marketing plan might sound like some ridiculous thing. Like, you need to put on a slight performance too. If you just tell them this is what is actually going to work, but someone else goes in and goes, because I lost a few last year and they said, look, the other person's marketing. And I'm like, what, what exactly?
Yeah.
And it was just the way they told them what it was, not what it was. So whenever that happens, that's like we redid our entire book last year, specifically the marketing section on a more dialed in approach on hitting on every note that matters and doesn't matter, but just to make sure everything's there.
It's
Yeah.
so
And
good. It's so good that you can remain humble. And I see one question Sarah's asking, how do you deal with, when you've lost a few? It sucks, and I've been doing this 31 years and I've shed tears. They've listed to somebody else and I'm like, holy cow, like it hurts. But I'm give myself a little pity party for 20 minutes or what have you, and then I'm like, okay, what can I learn from this? Like, because obviously I wasn't hitting on something. And, that resonated with me, Tom, when you talk about being maybe a little too down to business or too, factual or realistic. And people do need massaging. In their minds, they're going to write us a check for 50,000, 100,000. They don't care what the marketing costs. They don't care that we're giving half to another agent. All they know is they're giving us their annual salary and we better damn be worth it.
I think too, a lot of the times, like whether they're like the client is educated or not, they already think they know what they want
Mhm.
they already think they know how it works. So I've been guilty of it too. Like I'll come in and be like, matter of fact, like this works, this doesn't. But it's like one of the hardest things to do in our profession is I think like we're constantly, before we sign and go through the process, like we're selling an intangible, like we're selling the leap of faith, right? So it's so like everybody listening to this, like Tom just said it, Tamara said, like we lose listings. We don't,
Mhm.
we, no one bats 100. Like we're all
Mm-mm.
gonna eat some humble pie in this business. I really think it's important just to, it's, I'm very competitive person. So like I hate losing so much. So it's just like you have to flip it and find out like what can I do better? How can I
Mhm.
improve? And most of the time, like the client's not going to tell you that. So you got to take a
Mhm.
deep look at yourself.
I'm curious for like each of you as team leaders for this one because like I know with my own business too is like if I'm on the call, it's a lot easier to close having someone else do it. So for your teams, like you send a team member out, their close rate is I would assume most of the time going to be lower than if it was you personally going out. So like are you going out still on every single one? Are you training them? Or do they have a different presentation? Because I've worked, there's one team lead I interviewed where his presentation was 3 minutes, his team members were 90. Like it was a very different approach depending on him versus his team members. So like Sarah, I know this is something you and I have talked about in the past. We'll start with you because I
Yeah.
know you've talked about it.
Yeah. It depends on each agent. So we have one very experienced agent who works with us who loves Shannon or I to come. He just likes the banter. He's a very quiet, very calm individual, and he likes us there. He knows the stats. He likes us to do the pitch. And we have a couple newer agents. One of our agents joined us a year ago. He's on the Zoom here. We go with him because we're still, and he sold for a long time, 6 years before joining us, but he's still learning how to be a stone sister. So it's, we go, I mean, last week I went on 14 evaluations. So we're going on a lot still, not all. One of our agents, she's in a niche market. She has a little bit of an older demographic. She does lots of condos. She doesn't need me there. And I'm probably going to be a distraction or a detriment, really. So
No.
we don't go on all, but we go on a lot.
How about you, Tom?
Yeah, so I mean, I only do listings, right? So that's my team does the buyers, I do the listings. So I'm primarily going on all of them. And I've actually found that approach is actually something I tell my sellers as well.
Mhm.
Mostly just to say, just so you know too, like I can handle 15, 20 listings at once because I'm not running around with our active buyers. I have a team of specialists that's helping our buyers. So just so you know, like I'm available and you're getting me, like that's worked. You say what makes sense for your situation. But that's worked really well. Is like I let them know like I specialize in listing properties and I'm always available to chat with you and give you weekly updates. And if you would like to be over communicated with, or you only want me to call you when I have an offer, just let me know or where it is in the middle. I found that approach has worked well.
And I know we're running out of time, and there's been a lot of people who have been asking around like CMAs and pricing. So I want to dive into that kind of near the end here of how you walk through. And so for most of you, if that's the second step, granted, it's maybe the end of your presentation, but how do you talk to them about price? I know Tom, you mentioned a little bit earlier, like with the here's the price we're going to go to market, here's what we expect you to sell. But how are you handling that, especially when they have maybe an unrealistic picture coming in of what that price is?
You mean everybody?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well said, Brendan. I agree.
Um, I think again, it's so situational because like you can walk into the appointment where you're the only agent being interviewed. Maybe it's a referral, a high leverage situation. You can have a more, for lack of a better term, I call it honest conversation. I think you have to tiptoe a little bit more when you're in competition. But again, ask the questions. So before, I'm never going to give a price before I know how many realtors, and like Tamara, you said earlier, like we'll ask before we go to the appointment how many interviews. We'll ask again when we're there. We'll ask where we are in that sequence. And then when we get to the home and there's already been interviews before us, we will ask them. Like, don't be shy in these appointments, guys. Like the more information we have, the better chance of converting you'll have. So ask who it was. Maybe you know them. Um, Ask what price range they gave. And also ask the client what their expectations are,
Mhm.
right? I think if, and I'm not saying match their expectation, like a lot of the times they need to be educated. I also, there's a really fine line between taking a listing that's going to be a complete waste of my time and money, and add as a negative stat to my portfolio, and I know that I'm just not helping the client, um, compared to like, sometimes you got to know, like, it's okay to take something a little bit overpriced. You can be honest up front that, and usually you'll have a plan A, plan B. So like, okay, like seller, we'll do it your way, so you get that out of your system. But in 2 weeks from now, if, our volume isn't there and we haven't received offers, we're going to sign a price reduction. And sometimes like I just instructed my agent last week to sign that price reduction at the time of signing the original listing, because we were having a lot of trouble with this client. So we said, listen, sign everything together, have her pre-commit to that.
How do you handle it, Tom?
Yeah, so the days on market stat, I make sure that they understand because in Toronto, as long as it's the same brokerage, they'll combine them now. So it's a better representation. But I'll talk about like of the 20% of properties that sold in the last 30 days, on average, they took 38 days to sell, or whatever the number is, right? Now, days on market, and this is a thing that I think consumers understand. Days on market only tracks properties that sold unless it's tracked differently in markets outside the Toronto. I don't know. It's sold. It's not days on market of properties that are overpriced and are sitting there. So that number is always like, hey, you know, in that first 30 days, we're going to know based on showings and feedback how people are responding. And what we know is great marketing gets attention and viewings, and positioned pricing gets offers. And so I'm like, if we're getting to 30 days and we're getting showings but no offers, it just means like we're not in the 20% that's going to sell this month. So I give them a heads up. Like, I'm not going to randomly call you and ask for a price reduction, but like around day 25, I'm going to talk to you and say, I think we need to go here. And something we do with our buyers, it's the reverse search, where you put their criteria in and show them what's actually sold in the last 30 days. You almost want to do like a reverse one for the sellers, where you go like, if you were a buyer, let's just look at what's for sale. Where do we have to be positioned? And that word positioned, I use a lot. Positioned pricing is how we sell in today's market. You might have a great house, but you might not even show up in the search. And something we found recently where we have taken listings at their price, once we've made the price reduction, and I've had this like 5 times in the last month, we get an offer within a week.
Yeah.
Because people are watching and they're putting your property in their Amazon cart. They favorited it and they notice the price reduction and they're like, okay, now I'm going to go take a shot at it. Like
And actually,
everyone's, and there's no one's jumping on anything. They're slowly making decisions.
I think to that point, Tom, too, like something we find, this is a massive tool, or I find anyway, to help the client understand what pricing actually means on a more tangible level. Everyone's focused on like, okay, this sold for 96%, this sold for 98%, this sold for 94%. If you flip that, I explain to the clients, like, this is your margin of error. So if I'm in your micro market and the average sale price is like 97.2% of the listing price, that means I have a 2.8% margin of error to price your property. So if you're 3% out of what the market perceives you as value, you're in a world of trouble in a market like this. This is, and it's really easy to really put it in perspective that way, because you can go run off all the listings in the area and it's like, oh, look, like this one, and especially like we'll even pull up the terminated listings that have relisted and we'll show them like, this did not sell at this price. As soon as they lower to this price, like bang, they're 98%, they're 98.5%, they're 99%. So again, it's just how you look at the numbers. If you can explain it the other way, and also I think that differentiates you too, because a lot of agents are not taking that approach. I found that that's just something that the public seems to be able to consume without too much explanation.
I
And
love
I
that.
know we're running out of time, and I know like we're going over. So we're going to end with one last one. And Tamara, you did kind of already answer this, so it's a little bit for them. But if you have other ones you want to add, I'm very okay. It's the lessons you've learned of like what hasn't worked in these presentations, and then with like kind of a sub question of are there trends you've jumped on, thinking it was going to be great and it did not work out at all. It'll start with if anyone has one that they're ready to jump on with. Curious.
It's a good question.
Yeah, I was thinking here.
I was glad I didn't have to answer it. I'm like, whew, dodge that.
Yeah. Let's talk about where we sucked one time. Yeah,
I
because
mean,
I like the
there's
Matterport one.
well, yeah, Matterport we tried too. I think, guys, if you're using a tool like Matterport's something you could check a bounce rate. Like check your bounce rate. If everyone's hopping off there after 10 seconds, like is it really any value to anybody? I know when I'm using it, I'm frustrated as hell. Like I'm so bored after 5 seconds. I'm like down a hallway and I'm out of the house. So, but I think I have tried both approaches, like being really raw and honest about price and hoping that that builds trust and that builds rapport and more direct about it. And I find like that usually never lands well because it's so rare that a client is going to agree with your pricing. So I do tend to massage the pricing conversation a little bit more. I found the ones where I'm so direct, like I've lost them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there was an interesting study that came out years ago. I think the Ontario Real Estate Association did it, and I want them to update it because it was really good. And it was what do buyers actually care about? And that one was like those 3D dollar stores weren't even on it. It was like one was obviously photos, two was the description, three was floor plans, and even video wasn't until like number eight.
No, because
Yeah.
sellers like the video. Buyers don't
Yeah,
care. It moves too quick.
Yeah.
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 So that's what I always
I
say.
mean,
Like the video is more like a listing presentation for the neighbors.
a lot of it's fluff
Yeah.
and we'll tell the clients this. Like all this is
Yeah.
fluff and we all do the same thing. Like we don't need to talk about drone and video and we're all doing it. Like what really matters and what's going to sell your listing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I appreciate you guys all coming, and so I'm glad my internet held at the Hilton here. That was great. So what we're gonna do now is at the end is you all get a chance for a completely shameless plug on whatever you want. So I really appreciate you guys coming and spending. So if you want to ask for referrals, if you have anything else you want to pitch, you have a listing you want to give a little shout out to, I'm gonna let you guys do it. We're gonna give you each 30, 60 seconds here. We'll start with Brandon. Anything you
Oh
want.
man, I wasn't gonna throw a shameless pitch, but um I don't know. We're running a great team here. We think we're very biased, but we are looking to grow. So if anybody is struggling out there right now and you're in the GTA market, like reach out to us. And even if you're not looking to join a team, we are always happy to share, talk. We have some great tools that we didn't get into today that we can also send to Andrew to send
Yeah.
out to everybody. But
Send me everything and I'll include it in a big follow-up email.
yeah, just like some closing tools for listing appointments.
Yeah.
A key group guarantee is one of them. So anyone can reach out to me, text me, follow me on Instagram, just DM me, and and we're always happy to help and share.
How about you, Tom?
I got nothing to pitch. I'll just say like 7 years ago, I looked at my team and I said, I'm not working with buyers anymore. And 70% of my business was buyers. And I went all in on sellers. And it's been the best thing I ever did. And go look at your market stats for your area and tell me the top 10, 15, 20 teams aren't seller focused. Like this is how this industry works. I know it's slower now. We'd rather have all three of us would rather have a buyer call us right now. Like at where we are, but long term, everything you do leads to the listing presentation. Take it seriously and be really good at it. Because like every call while you're on this learning, everything you do is to get that seat at the kitchen table. Once you're there, you better be good.
Yeah.
Like that's the
Ask for the
biggest
listing.
ROI in your business is that hour.
And I'll do a show. So go watch Tom's Story show if you want to learn how to do YouTube well. Tom, probably one of the best in the industry.
Oh yeah, we have
on
YouTube channels also. Yeah.
Yeah, go check those out. And all right, Tamara, let's hear it.
My final one is it's going to hit plus 30 on Sunday. So anybody that you have that's wanting to move to the sunny, warm Okanagan, we're golfing, swimming, and playing tennis already. So refer your clients to Stone Sisters. And like Brendan, we are one of our agents has just had a baby, and we are a little short staffed. So if somebody would like to be a realtor in Kelowna, give us a call.
Perfect. So yeah, appreciate everyone, and huge thank you to Remax for keeping this free for everyone and sponsoring for the rest of the year. Again, it's the last Wednesday of every month at 2 p.m. And we're gonna keep going with this all year. There's gonna be 2 for more broker managers. The other 10 will be all for kind of agents day to day. So it's gonna be a pretty fun year. We got a lot of cool topics planned. So the recording is going to go on YouTube. If you're watching this on YouTube, this is what I'm talking about. I'm going to put together a follow-up email for everyone with some of the resources. So again, thank you. If there's anything else you want to share that we talked about, like booklets, things like that, Tom, the questionnaire, I'll put it all together into a big follow-up email. Like I said, I am traveling right now, so I'm at a conference. So is there a chance this isn't going out today? If not, I'm back in my office tomorrow. I fly out early in the morning. So worst case, at some point tomorrow, I will get this done and send it out to everyone. But again, I appreciate everyone taking the time here today. And we'll see you next month for the next one.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks,
Bye,
Andrew.
guys.
Thanks, guys.
Right.
Bye.
Thank you.